Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today I want to start off with a little 2A news. I'm sure most people out there have been following what's going on with the NRA. They've been sued by the state of New York, which is seeking to dissolve them because of malfeasance on the part of Wayne LaPierre and his stooges, and how they've basically been living the high life on our money. Well, it hit us a really important part today, because the NRA had been trying to avoid the lawsuit to dissolve them by filing bankruptcy, by doing a bunch of other tricks. Well, today the judge threw out their request to stop the case against them in New York. So it looks like it is going to go forward. And it is probably going to end up in the NRA being completely dissolved by the state of New York because of malfeasance, like I said. And although I am no fan of the NRA, they're not real activists as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a fan of them, but I'm also not going to giggle because they're gone. I never wanted the NRA to go away. I wanted Wayne LaPierre and his stooges to get out of the NRA so it could become something it was supposed to be again. It could become a gun rights organization, not an organization that profited off the gun fight. You know, people that were profiting off the battle for our rights. Not trying to win the war, just trying to maintain it forever and give away little bits of our rights at a time so they could get us mad and get us scared and manipulate us. All because of Wayne LaPierre and his friends wanting to live the high life. The goal of the NRA should have been to never have to exist. To create a situation where they didn't need to even be there. That should have been their goal. But their goal became maintaining that steady cash flow and branching out into other things like NRA TV and blah, blah, blah. It's not what it was about. That's what it became about, but that's not what it was supposed to be about. So I'm not going to shed any tears over the NRA leaving, being dissolved, but I'm also not happy about it. This is a big victory for people like Bloomberg, etc. They get to say they killed the NRA. Well, they didn't kill the NRA. The NRA killed the NRA. And like I said, I've been calling people's attention to this for years. This is where I blow my own horn a little bit. You know, I don't get to do that very often, and I haven't been able to do it since high school, basically. But I told you so. I told you the NRA was bad, and I was one of the first people to jump on the bandwagon. Unfortunately, we had too many people in the gun community, especially people making money off the NRA, that weren't willing to denounce the NRA until the money stopped flowing. And by then it was too late. So the NRA is likely going to be a thing of the past. I'm hoping we can salvage some aspects of it. I'm hoping we can rebuild it from the ashes. There's a lot of history there. A lot of physical history, firearms, etc., and a lot of just basic history. The battles that were fought, the things that were done, the people that have been involved. I'm hoping we can salvage that and rebuild once the NRA is officially gone. Maybe rebuild it better, you know, a 50-state initiative instead of a single organization. But I did want to point out today, like I said, that their attempts to file bankruptcy, their attempts to have the case thrown out that was filed against them by the state of New York has failed as of today. Actually, it was as of yesterday, but by the time you see this, it'll be, when I'm filming this, it's today. By the time you see it, it'll be yesterday. So if anyone was out there hoping that the NRA was going to reform and change its ways, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Like I said, hopefully we can build something back afterwards, but it looks like the NRA is going to be a thing of the past. And you know what? That brings me to another topic I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about whether we even need big gun organizations like the NRA at all. Because I know there's a lot of gun organizations waiting in the lurch to be the next NRA. And a lot of them are actively now trying to be the next NRA, the big gun rights organization that everyone goes to after the NRA falls. To me, that's just like trading one monster for another. Because I don't like the big national organizations. Because what they do, they're basically a middleman that consolidates all of our money in one spot, sits on it, and then decides which battles they'll fight, just like the NRA did. Instead of us deciding what battles get fought with our money, we donate to a big organization. That big organization gets piles and piles of cash, and they start having more and more expenses of their own that they pay with that cash. So they want to make sure that cash stays there or they keep profiting. And that makes them decide, well, we would like to fight your battle in Massachusetts, but, there's a 52% chance we'll lose the battle and we'll just be out the money. So we're not going to do that. That happens when you allow big national organizations to sit on your cash and take their share out of it. I don't like that. That's why I like smaller local organizations. A California organization, when there's a fight in California, they can put out the rallying cry and people from everywhere can help them. We don't need groups like NRA to be the watchdogs anymore because, let's face it, they weren't really watching much of anything except for their expense accounts grow. And plus, we are now connected to each other like never before. If something happens in California, I can know about it simply by opening an email on my watch or my telephone. I think calling it a telephone makes me sound old, but you know what I mean. So I don't think we need these big organizations. These big organizations used to serve a purpose because not everybody could know what's going on. Most people didn't know what was happening outside of their county, much less outside of their state back in the day. When I was young, there was no grand connectivity like that. There wasn't even really cable television when I was little. Most people didn't have it. So we needed them then. They were the ones that watched. They were the ones that had people in every state and every place that reported back, gave that phone call and did a report or filed a report and then told us where the fights were. We don't need that anymore. Back then, it was acceptable that we gave them our money because they knew where the fight was. And it was acceptable that a little bit of the money went out to them because they were doing a job we couldn't do. We don't need that anymore. Why do we need a big organization sitting on our cash deciding where our fights are fought or which ones of our fights get fought? I don't think we need that anymore. Like I said, I can talk to people in California. If there's a local organization in California that has a battle going on like they do now in the Ninth Circuit, getting rid of magazine bans and then hopefully taking on the roster, they can put the word out through the internet. People like myself and people like big gun channels could get on and say, hey, this is where the fight's at today. This is the law you're fighting it. This is the fund you can pay to pay the lawyer to fight it for that organization. That's way more valuable paying that lawyer to do things right so that he's not some overworked volunteer that's got 6 other cases going at the same time to pay, to feed his family. Being able to pay a lawyer through the means of all of us getting together and doing it is way more valuable than throwing all of our money into place and making fancy buildings and putting logos on things and stuff like that. Fighting the court battles is much more important. We don't need a big visible presence. We don't need a yacht with NRA written on the side of it. We don't need a plane with NRA written on the side of it. We need the money going to fight battles in the courts where we actually win. Not to schmoozing with politicians so that you can make deals to just steal enough to make people angry. We'll let you just get enough to make them angry and then they'll give us more money. We'll give you some of it and then we'll live the high life. That's not what we need anymore. And trading the NRA for just another organization that just comes right in and completely molds itself in to fit their footprint, not what we need. In fact, you've seen a lot of gun channels doing that. We survived an NRA that did what was not good for the Second Amendment, but instead what was good for them and their bank accounts. And then gun channels rushed in to take their place. Hey, don't stop being scared and don't stop being nervous. Put that energy elsewhere. Don't stop sending those $20 checks. Send them to me instead of sending them to the NRA. And I'll keep you scared. So I don't want to trade one monster for another. And like I said, we do not need them anymore. We're too connected. We can work together as one collective organism simply because we're connected by our phones and our computers. I think we need to move more to a format of doing things like that. Actually fighting the fights where they're happening. And the good thing about that, good thing about doing it on a state level, is if you're in that state, well, you're not sending your money to some national organization that doesn't fight the battle in your state. And then you have to sit there and go, why are we not being defended? You can give your money directly to whoever's fighting the fight in your state. And if you're in a state, like I've said many times before, that isn't fighting a fight, doesn't have anything to worry about on the Second Amendment level, send your money to a state that does. I'm a member of organizations in Florida. I'm a member of organizations in New York. I'm a member of organizations in Colorado and California. I give them all $10, $15, $20 a month, whatever their membership fee is. It doesn't come to much. It comes to like $180 a month. And you don't even have to do that. You can just wait until there's actually a fight going on. You don't have to fund them monthly. Just when you check your sources and you go, aha, there's a big court battle going on in Massachusetts right now to try to get back gun rights, and here's the link to the fund to pay the lawyer, then you do it. You don't have to have somebody else sitting on your money. You can keep your money till it's needed and choose where to fight. I've seen so many people say, I can't afford to give money to that cause because I already gave $100 this month to the NRA. Well, it'd have been better if you gave $50 to that cause that was actually fighting a fight. You'd still have $50 left, and the money would have done something good. And I'm beating a dead horse here telling you we don't need them. But we don't need them. I'm repeating myself there. So I'm a big fan of all organizations should be local because the fights are going to be local. The fights aren't on the national level. And even if the fights come on the national level, who do you think makes those decisions on a national level? State senators. So if we had state organizations, those state organizations know better how to put pressure on their senators and their congresspeople than somebody from the NRA who just wants to go up and drink martinis with them in a strip bar and talk about how much stuff we can afford to lose right now so that they can keep making their money. So I think, like I said, we need to start working more on an individual basis, paying attention to what's going on, and our organizations need to be more state-level organizations that actually fight the fights in our state. And if they don't have anything to fight in our state, then they can help other states. And we'll get things done a lot faster. This whole idea of all the money going to a central place where it can be used to support lavish lifestyles is just, it's old, and we don't need to do it anymore. Power corrupts, money corrupts. Why do you think I avoid making money on this channel? Because I know I could be corrupted easily by money. If I started having, new Corvette every year money, I'd do whatever I had to do to keep that money coming. So better watch me. Because don't worry, I ain't anywhere near close to making that much money. That's why I have to send money out, like the TYM and stuff, so that I don't get used to it. I could very easily get used to living a very fancy life, I think. Although I don't know if I'd fit in. I went to a Volvo dealer the other day, and they treated me like I was garbage, because I guess I don't look like I live a fancy life. And then we bought a car right after. We walked out, bought a car, same price at another dealership, because they treated us like garbage at Volvo. And I'm getting off topic. I'm ranting about my own life here. But, this show's a little bit about me, too. But that's what I wanted to say. The NRA is going away, and I'm not happy that it's happening. But I also think they're obsolete. Not only were they corrupt, they're obsolete. All these big national organizations are obsolete. They spend most of their time telling us why we need to give them our money instead of fighting any fights. I haven't seen anything big out of any of them lately. State organizations, yes. Federal ones, no. I see them step in and try to hog limelight and do a little bit, but the fact that we are where we're at now, that we're still fighting a fight for gun rights and that it's still a political issue, as gun websites pointed out earlier today, the fact that guns are still a political issue means groups like the NRA have failed. The way we've been doing it didn't work. And he's absolutely right. And like I say, we've evolved beyond them, both capability-wise, information-wise, connectivity-wise, I should say. So we don't need them anymore. So, like I said, goodbye NRA. It's not good riddance. I hope we can rebuild them as something better. Maybe, like I said, a 50-state initiative. And it's not something that's to be proud about or crow about. Like I said, it's a victory for Bloomberg, but it looks like they're going to be gone. But like I say, the good news is, if there's any good news in this, we don't need groups like that anymore. We can do it ourselves. We're smart enough, we're connected enough, and we know what to do if we would just get off our asses and do it. And maybe if we weren't looking to big organizations like the NRA, the GOA, etc. to do the fight for us, maybe we'd get off our asses and do it ourselves. All right, with all that being said, I want to move on in the show here to something a little more fun, something that I have said many times is my favorite part of the show. Gun talk. And once again, I don't want to just talk about a gun. I want to combine gun talk with viewer mail because I want to answer a specific question from a viewer. This viewer sent me an email saying, hey, I want to get my mother a .380 pistol. And the reason I wanted to address this letter is because my mother is in the same situation now. She has a little revolver. She wants something smaller, like a little 380 to go in her purse, because the revolver is just a little too thick, she said, because she carries a very small purse. So this question is something I'm thinking about too. They want to get their mother a small semi-automatic 380 for carry, and what would be the best one to look at. And they did point out that their mother is recoil sensitive and doesn't really have that easy of a time racking a slide. She can rack the slide on his Glock 19, but it's not easy for her. So, you know, there's a lot of 380 guns out there, but most of them aren't built for someone who can't handle recoil or can't rack a slide. Like a PPK is difficult to rack the slide. It's not easy. Now the Shield EZ, the 380 EZ from Smith & Wesson, that's a good one. That's one a lot of people look at. That's one I'm looking at for my mom. But there is one other I want to point out. One that I don't think a lot of people think of, and I think it's relatively new. And it is the Walther Ccp 380. If you're not familiar with the Walther Ccp, it's a little semi-automatic 9mm pistol usually, but now they've made it in a 380. And because it's a 380, the slide is easy to rack because the springs don't need to be as heavy. The recoil is almost non-existent, according to Walther. It's just a really great gun for people that have difficulty racking a slide or, you know, handling recoil. Now, in a lot of people's minds, they're thinking, well, why would you buy a 380? Why wouldn't you buy a 9mm and just shoot low-powered ammo in it? Well, most semi-automatics aren't like revolvers. In a 357 Magnum revolver, you can just stick 38 in there and shoot all day, and it doesn't matter that it's got reduced recoil. In most semi-automatics, if you do that, you're going to run into problems because the slides are too heavy. The springs are too stiff. If you put too light of an ammo in it, it's not going to function reliably. It's not like you can just switch it up and it doesn't matter. There's other things you'd have to change. You'd have to lighten your springs. You might even need to have a slide lightened to make it function properly because all that stuff's factored in the cycling process. So when you want something like a 380 semi-auto, you're kind of better off to buy a 380 semi-auto than to try to buy a 9mm and shoot low powered ammo with it and make it work reliably. So those are the ones I'd recommend. Like I said, the first one is the Shield EZ380, one I'm looking at for my mom. But the one I would say to definitely look at, if you want a gun, like I said, that's easy to rack, even their 9mm are easy to rack. Because of the way their system is set up, it's just incredibly easy. And with a 380 in that frame gun, is going to handle recoil, like I said, amazingly well. And like they say, seems almost non-existent. So if you're looking for a small 380 gun, for your mother, for your mom, or for anyone who's recoil sensitive and can't rack a slide very easily for one reason or another, the CCP 380, the new CCP 380 from Walther is one I think you should look at. All right, everybody, as usual, I want to end the show today with our viewer EDC, our carrier of the day. And today we have Kyle D. And he is carrying his 357 Magnum LCR in a DME Kydex pocket holster. Now, at first I wondered, why are there sausages wrapped around his grip? But then I realized those might be his fingers, so I thought I better not say anything. But I wanted to show this setup here for a couple of different reasons. One, because he's carrying an LCR. I think those are awesome. When it comes to small revolvers, the LCR is still easily one of the best. It's what I bought my mother when she wanted one. I bought her a pretty purple one. They are an awesome little gun. I think a lot of people overlook them these days because they're not new and they're not flashy, but they're still one of the best carry guns you can get, one of the best carry revolvers you can get in that small J-frame size. So I wanted to show it for that reason. But I also wanted to show it because of the way he's carrying. If you notice, he's carrying in a way you don't see very often. A lot of people think when you're carrying a gun, it's either on your hip, or I guess if you don't care about your penis or your life, in an appendix position, or maybe in a front pocket. But he's carrying in his overalls pocket. And that's kind of unusual. And I kind of like it because it's kind of like having a chest rig when you go hunting or when you go camping or hiking. In my case, I like a chest rig. It's easy to get to. Plus, if you're pinned or trapped, you can reach it. So it's a really nice way to carry. Now, I know this is not going to apply to most people out there. Most of you don't wear overalls. There's only so many backwoods hillbilly bands that need a jug player. So most of you aren't going to be dressing like one. But it's still a unique way to carry. It's still not unique, but unusual. And I wanted to show it because it's a little thinking outside the box, and he's still carrying a great gun. So that's what I wanted to show you today. I wanted to show you our viewer EDC of the day, Kyle D, with his LCR in his front pocket of his overalls. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back tomorrow. Until then, I just want to sign off by saying, as usual, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. But if we continue to fight and we keep our heads about us, we ignore the fearmongers and the profiteers and the people that want to make us scared and angry and easily manipulated and easily preyed upon and easily fleeced, if we ignore those people and just act like mature adults with level heads and face our problems head on and do the right thing, what things will be in the future for the gun rights community because of our efforts is better.